Hi everyone, I'm Pastor Robert Sane, interim pastor at Holy Communion Lutheran Church, and I am here watering some of our plants behind our house. You know, these plants in this heat now, they need to be watered about every day, and we also try to feed them about every week, at least every week. But plants need that for nutrition and for refreshment, kind of almost like we do too. We need to be refreshed occasionally, refreshed with hearing God's Word, and it helps to revitalize us and gives us some perspective as we live our life every day. The story that you've heard about today is from the 45th chapter of the book of Genesis, and it's sort of the concluding story of how the relationship between Joseph and his brothers, all of them being sons of Jacob who became Israel, but it's how these brothers are not only reunited with each other, but how their relationship is restored. It's a classic paradigm or example of the way forgiveness works, and there's some interesting parallels between this story of Joseph and with Jesus in the New Testament Gospels. And out of jealousy, because Joseph was the favorite son of his father Jacob, he was the 11th born son, but he and his brother Benjamin were the only two sons of Jacob's favorite wife, who was Rachel. And so last week the story is told of how Joseph was given this beautiful coat to wear. His father loved him more than his brothers. Eventually the jealousy and rage of his brothers grew to the point to one day when Joseph came out into the fields to meet with them, they staged Joseph's death. They took his coat off, killed a wild animal, a wild beast, took the blood, put it on the coat, put Joseph into a pit, and eventually sold him to Ishmaelites who were headed toward Egypt. And they took the coat back to their father Jacob and said that, and Jacob immediately came to the conclusion that Joseph was dead, that he had been killed. And so between last week's ending of the story with the staging of Joseph's death by his brothers, when Joseph gets to Egypt through a sequence of events that are uncanny and have to do with Joseph's ability to understand and interpret dreams. Joseph ends up within the family of Potiphar, who was a steward of the Pharaoh. Potiphar's wife kept trying to come on to Joseph. Joseph ignored her. Eventually she set it up and made it appear as if Joseph had tried to seduce her, and he was arrested, thrown into prison. And through his ability to be able to tell two of his fellow inmates in the prison about what was going to happen in their life, the word eventually gets back to Pharaoh that he has a prisoner who can understand these dreams that Pharaoh's been having. And the dreams have to do with what's going to happen in Egypt. There's going to be 7 years of crops and then 7 years of famine. And Joseph's able to comprehend that based on his interpretation of these dreams of Pharaoh. So eventually these years of prosperity come, crops are stored, and then the years of famine come, and there's a great famine throughout the whole world. Back up in Canaan, Joseph's brothers and their family, they're about to starve, and they eventually come down to Egypt to find food. And it's a whole series of exchanges and several trips that eventually involve Joseph's full brother, Benjamin. And it almost sounds cruel the way Joseph sets up it appears at least initially that it's retribution. Because he recognizes his brothers, they do not recognize him. And he puts them through quite an ordeal until the story that we've heard today about how Joseph is overcome with emotion and when he meets his brothers and reveals to them who he is, he makes it clear right away that he is not there to punish them, but he's there to forgive them. And he sobs, and they hug each other, and he's finally able to reunite with his full brother, Benjamin. It's a really incredible story of forgiveness. The parallel with the New Testament gospel is it almost reminds me exactly of Jesus' encounter with the 10 disciples who met with him when Jesus appeared in the room on the evening of the resurrection. And he said to them, "Peace be with you." There's 10 of Joseph's brothers, obviously minus Joseph and minus Benjamin, who were there when Joseph reveals himself. So there's 10 of Joseph's brothers who are present when he reveals to them that he is their brother. And he immediately makes peace with them. That's what he's about. And that's what we're about as God's people. Obviously, we don't always get along with each other. And sometimes the relationships that the people that we're the closest to are the ones that we have the most difficulty with, particularly with family members. But this story reveals the wisdom of Joseph, and it also reveals to us sort of what God's intention is for us. Joseph undoubtedly had come to recognize that getting retribution or getting even with his brothers would not bring him any peace either. And so for us as human beings, when we are unable to forgive someone else and when we continue to hold resentments toward others, we are actually inflicting more pain upon ourselves. The only person that we hurt under those circumstances are really ourselves. So this story shows us again about God's intention for humanity and about forgiveness and love. And I think I maybe just had a hose over there to break away, so I better break away now and check on that. Have a good day.